Saints Row 4 is bad. Yeah, you waited a month to hear a sentence that most of you already knew, but for those who didn't, fucking surprise! I don't like being negative on this channel, but every now and then we just need a piece of media I don't enjoy to mellow out the sea of positivity I have. And Saints Row 4 is the balance we've secretly needed since DMC. Doesn't mean I wanted it though. Also, if you can hear fucking cars driving by, it's because I live on a busy street right next to a school. I fucking hate it, but it's hot in this room. I'm not gonna sweat so you guys can get good audio. I'm sorry. This game fascinates me in the weirdest way. I've just never seen a game start off so strong, but eventually tumble down the stairs for so long until the credits finally roll. Any semblance of excitement I had at the ending of the third was destroyed by the 30-minute mark in 4, and it's not that hard to figure out why. This game's tone and story basically ruins everything. It's such a deterrence that it feels like standalone DLC to the third. I mean, yeah, earlier installments weren't heavy on story, but they were done in a way that you could either enjoy it or completely ignore it. Because at the end of the day, you're still playing a crime game based around the boss of a gang who wears purple streetwear. That's not the case with Saints Row 4 though. The first story choice in 4 is to have the boss kill Cyrus, the secondary antagonist from the third, which is good. I enjoy tying up loose ends from a previous installment, but this is the only time I enjoyed it. Then the boss destroys a nuke, becomes the president of the United States, only for the Earth to be invaded by aliens, and then said aliens blow up Earth, which works as your motivation for this game. But of course, in Saints Row fashion, this choice is undone by the end of the game by introducing time travel, which just makes everybody ask, then what the fuck was that for? The reason why the Earth ends up being blown up is even dumber than the Earth actually being blown up. Zinyak tells the boss that if they keep trying to escape, he'll blow up Earth, and the boss just completely disregards this. They don't even acknowledge the fact that Zinyak is probably telling the truth, but they just try to call his bluff, which ends up murdering 7.7 billion people. Even as somebody who is a casual fan, this is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. This is what I mean when I said it feels like standalone DLC. It feels like just as much as a sequel to the third as Blood Dragon is to Far Cry 3. But Blood Dragon wasn't sold for $60 and is way better than this could ever be, so it's automatically superior. What really baffles me is that the game didn't need to blow up Earth. The game could have been focusing on the boss having to make an army consisting of characters from past installments to survive the invasion and stop Zinyak, kind of like the Saints finally having a good deed to do in the series. Still a ridiculous tone shift that completely derails the series in my opinion, but it's way better than this shit, I can tell you that. Saints Row 4 feels immature to say the least. It's a game focused on making references both to the franchise's past and to other media, which is all fine in moderation. I mentioned in the last video about how I love the humor of 3, and 2 is really strong as well, but it feels like in 4, the jokes have essentially become the serious. With 3, there was still a cohesive story. Sure, it was comedic, but there were stakes. There was an antagonist with a reason to be an antagonist, and there was a reasonable goal with a 3-act structure. But 4 takes it to a whole new level, and not in a good way. So, spoilers for a 7-year-old mediocre game, but you end up going inside of Shandi's nightmare to save her, but you end up saving Saints Row 2 Shandi from Veteran Child, similarly to how it happened in 2, except with a bit of a more nightmarish feel. Present Shandi resents past Shandi because she was a stoner. That's about all that she has against her, but after a couple side missions, they reconcile about how much they hate Veteran Child. That's it. This is character development. It just feels like one big, see guys, you get it? Shandi was the only one who had a huge character change in the third, so we made new Shandi and old Shandi meet. Do you like it? Do ya? Do ya? This isn't just an isolated incident. There's a lot more shit like this, such as saving Benjamin from Tanya and having to help Johnny Gat save Aisha. Also, they bring Johnny Gat back from dead. What the fuck? Did I just say back from dead? This game is breaking me. Look, I get it. I agree that killing him was a mistake, and I even had a whole rant in the third video about it. Plus, the idea of Zinyak kidnapping Johnny Gat first because he's the only man who could single-handedly kill him is fucking hilarious, and it was one of my favorite jokes in the entire game. But it feels like Volition isn't trying anymore when it comes to their storytelling. Even the DLC, Enter the Dominatrix, which at first hand feels like it would be a giant sex joke, but it's actually one giant fourth wall break. And I don't know which is worse. In all honesty, the idea behind a documentary based on Saints Row 4 as a fictional action movie story is funny for 5 seconds, but the execution itself feels very, how do I say this? Deadpool-y? And not like good Deadpool, like Facebook Deadpool, like chimichangas and dick jokes Deadpool. The entire joke behind the thing is that Pierce wrote it to build himself up. It's all played as a shitty B movie while still recognizing that it's a game, and there's a race of velociraptors revealed at the end. Some poor souls paid $6.99 for this. In my opinion, once being the president and an alien invasion were brought up during development, it feels like Volition threw as much shit at the wall as they could. Dinosaurs, superpowers, killing more characters, blowing up the earth, which ruins the chance of there being any semblance of seriousness in sequels. The fact that this game was originally touted as the end of the series is terrifying. Had Saints Row completely ended this way, I really believe that the fanbase would have just completely given up all hope, which is very disappointing because the gameplay is still pretty alright. Yeah, I said that I hate all of the story choices including the superpowers, but at its core, it's still an enjoyable game. Saints Row 4 is essentially the third, but with superpowers and an uncomfortable amount of Star Wars references and more sex jokes. Where 3 felt good in its grounded gameplay and sprinkled in some cool moments where you operate something like the VTOL, 4 just gives you superpowers and negates all those vehicle sections and makes the game feel like you're doing the same thing most of the time. Which would be bad enough if there still weren't vehicle sections. And now I just feel nerfed. Or nothing. Plus, almost the entire game takes place in a virtual steel port, which, one, is the exact same map as the third with random sci-fi shit and Big Brother-esque propaganda thrown in places to make it feel as if you didn't pay full price for the same fucking map, and 2, makes the game feels like you had no purpose. I'm not affecting anything by doing side quests in this fake open world. I know that this has little to no effect on the real world and Zinyak. It just ends up putting more of a divide between the player and the characters they come to love from these past games. I don't know, man. 3 felt like it had cohesion, but 4 feels like every different aspect was made by a completely separate team with no communication in between each other. Your superpowers feel like they have no purpose besides mini-bosses because your running melee attack is now a one-hit kill, which makes even all the guns feel like they have no purpose. Speaking of which, the guns all feel the same. To be fair, the third's gunplay wasn't too different. Almost every gun in a specific gun type felt the same, but as a whole, it just doesn't feel like everything works together. And fights in this game overall just feel weaker than 3 because of it. Saints Row 4 just ends up feeling bloated when it comes to side content. Never have I ever seen a game have so much to do that it has too much to do. I put about 20 or so hours in and I'm barely half done. Man, this game just has an endless loop of tedious bullshit. I mean, what year did this game come out? Oh, fuck! Remember how I shat on GTA 5 last time and said it was far too long and tedious, but Saints Row 3 doesn't have that problem? Well, shiver me fucking timbers because they did the thing I told them not to do. There are 21 different types of diversions, with 5 of them just being a different take on the same mayhem minigame. Is this enjoyable? Like, I have a real question. Is this fucking enjoyable? Did somebody buy this for $60 and say, yes, this is what I want? The same thing, 5 times. Before you're able to go into a store now in the game, you now have to play a hacking minigame. And people complained when Watch Dogs and Spider-Man did it, even though it wasn't that bad. There are 34 of these. Why? I don't know. I genuinely think it's the 8th wonder of the world that I don't want to fucking answer to. There's immersion, and then there's being obnoxious. But guys, hey, there's comedic romance scenes parodying Mass Effect 3. Look guys, we made it funny. Do you like our game now? Do you want it now? The conclusion I've come to is the philosophy of Saints Row 4, and that's make something good and add 2 things to fuck it up, like enjoyable gameplay, then you add a terrible story, as well as mediocre customization. In the previous video, I went off on a mini tangent about how Saints Row is too reliant on presets and how it could up its customization. However, in 4, it's more of the same, except clothing went in a completely different direction. Most of the series was rooted in regular streetwear, with Let's Pretend being the only store to buy weird costumes from. Saints Row 4 does the opposite, which is fine in some ways. The superhero and Star Wars knockoff costumes were a pleasant surprise, But after a couple hours, they lost their luster. And guess what? They didn't fix the voice problem. Sure, they kept the same voices from the third to keep continuity in the series, I'm sure, but there's still only 3 per gender. As a matter of fact, they removed the zombie voice. Why? Why less customization? I mean, what were they thinking? Look, I want this over just as much as you do. We're gonna wrap up this fairly quickly. I just have one last topic, and that's the release of this game itself. I bought the PlayStation 4 re-release, remaster thing, and it was plagued with issues. I've personally experienced shitty frame rates, laggy controls, and on top of that, it crashed multiple times. What the fuck, Chuck? I've only had a handful of games crash on PS4, with this one taking second place for, oh, well, that's not surprising at all. Saints Row games run like shit regardless of what platform you play on, with the only comfortable way being on PC. So why? When the original PlayStation 3 release is almost the same price as a Subway sandwich, would I buy this overpriced port? It's the cheapest way to get decent footage, that's why. I mean, at least when Grand Theft Auto 5 came to PS4, it had additional features as well as remastered graphics, which warranted the full $60. I mean, at least I got Get Out of Hell along with it. Oh, you son of a bitch. Gat Out of Hell is a digital-only code that comes with Saints Row 4 Reelected. And since I bought my copy used from the gaming equivalent of Purgatory, it didn't come with it, but I still paid over $30 expecting both games. On top of that, my copy looked like the original game owner dipped it in milk. The entire thing had water damage. Even the GameStop stickers were covered with water damage. I would show evidence, but I threw it away and got it replaced. Like a sane human being. GameStop, because fuck you. And yeah, I know that Gat Out of Hell is getting its own video, but I feel like this just needs to be said. Not only did last gen consoles get a physical copy of the standalone DLC, which I ended up having to buy, but Saints Row 4 is only 12 gigabytes. That is 1 gigabyte smaller than the Devil May Cry HD collection. And that's about a fourth of the size of the base install for Battlefront 2015. What world am I fucking living in? All this is just laziness. The fact that all of these game collections exist that are able to fit 2 or even 3 full games onto one disc, and Volition can't be bothered to add the standalone DLC onto the disc that is marketed as a collection, drives me insane. I mean, I get why they did it, and I get why GameStop puts this warning up to inform people that DLC may not be included. But I'm still upset, and I didn't know that Gat Out of Hell was included as additional DLC, so I'll do the irresponsibly responsible thing and say it was all 3 of our faults. I mean, at least Gat Out of Hell will come out on Switch. Damn it! So, as seen in my video on the 3rd, I'm a fan of playing these games on Switch, mostly for convenience. And I got my copy of the 3rd for about $30, a little overpriced in my book, but not the worst. But now, a 7-year-old game being re-released with absolutely no improvements, the now complete removal of Gat Out of Hell, and it will probably have all of the same frame rate issues and crashing the PS4 release had, all of this for $40. Well, give them a round of applause. They did an even worse thing. Instead of re-releasing the 3rd on Xbox One or PS4, no, just Switch. And now they're re-releasing on Switch, no Gat Out of Hell. Look, TLDW, buy 4 and Gat Out of Hell physically on PlayStation 3 or 360. It's not worth buying the overpriced re-release that has a high chance that it doesn't include a major selling point. At the end of the day, I still have to ask the question, is Saints Row 4 bad? Answer's no. Is it good? No, it's definitely mediocre. Like, the $10 bin mediocre. Like, should I buy this or a candle that's just $1 more mediocre? Not $30 for being half complete, buggy as shit, and dipped in milk. I think you should definitely give it a shot if you enjoyed the 3rd, especially its more wacky aspects. However, if you jumped off the train after 2, or like the more grounded feeling of the series in general, this is definitely not the jumping on point. You can safely skip this one. Fortunately, there's still hope for the series in the form of 3 games left to take a look at. I don't have a 360 anymore, so I can't look at the first Saints Row. Plus, apparently there's a 5th game in the works at Volition. But I'm really concerned. Can it be saved? Is the series really worth saving? Honestly, if the games keep going in the direction of 4, I don't even know anymore. Thank you for watching this long-ass video. I will be back in, about the same time, even though Gat Out of Hell is shorter. I'll be back in around the same time taking a look at that. Thank you again.